Welcome to Lead with Hope with Brandy Kelly, the podcast where we explore the power of hope, leadership, and resilience in today's world. Each week, we'll bring you stories, insights, and actionable advice from leaders, innovators, and changemakers. So let's dive in and discover how you can lead with hope.
Hello and welcome to the Lead with Hope podcast. Today, I am honored to welcome Amy P. Kelly to the podcast. Amy is a USA Today best-selling author, speaker, and trainer. Amy, why don't you start off today by telling the audience who you are? Share your story.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here too, Brandy, and it's great that we've connected through something that we both believe in, which is hope. Hope, the word that hope. So, yes, I would say that I am a mother of four, and my twins are graduating from college in a couple months, my daughter and my son. And then I have two additional sons who are in high school. And my husband and I have been a team together for 25 years this year. And my professional career has been, in many ways, very similar to my personal life because they're both. And I've been a human resources executive responsible for building market recognized top workplaces and employment brands. A lot of that had to do with learning and development programs to attract and retain people who wanted to grow their careers and to become more valuable, both through their own skill set to the company they worked for, but in general, as they grew in their overall professional development. So through that, I ended up working with an author that's, someone who a lot more people know than my name, but we got to write some things together. And through his mentorship, I've learned a little bit about that type of thing and continue to consult and bring professional and personal development to individuals, teams, communities, and love doing that. Thank you for saying the P in my name, because the P is for my middle name, which is Pauline. And then it stands for the power on the inside of each person to fulfill their purpose inside there between Amy and Kelly. So that's a little about me.
I love that, Amy. I love the P. So, we talk about hope, and hope is such a powerful feeling, a powerful force in our world. But without action, it's just wishful thinking. So for you, what habits or actions do you engage in to spark your success?
Well, I have honed my own ability of discernment on where to take action. And if I feel prompted to act, I try to make it a swift obedience to that action. So I've definitely slowed down in taking action when it comes to all the possibilities, but I've sped up as I've listened harder for where am I really called to make an impact. And so I move swiftly in that direction, but I'm able to kind of block out the distractions and be clear on where I'm called to make an impact. So a lot of that has been through mindset development, through listening, and I'm always getting better at all of these things. So I have many areas to continue to improve, but not speeding ahead because something appeared to be a good direction, discerning that I was correct, and then moving forward with confidence and focus.
Okay. I have a daughter. She's grown up now. She has a child of her own. And one of the things I tell her all the time is to practice the pause. And so when I hear you talk about that listening piece and slowing down and discerning, that's kind of what I take from that. So can you share with the audience maybe some strategies you utilize in practicing the pause? Like, what are some things that you do in your daily life to do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I make sure that I'm up at least before the people in my household. And not everyone can do that, I know, but I make sure I have time where I'm by myself, where I get to, for me, pray, to be alone and to be quiet, so that by the time the activity starts, I will have already centered myself around what I believe to be the focuses of the day, and made myself grounded enough that no matter what happens, because very rarely does the day go exactly as the intended plan might lay out. So just getting up early, and I know other people say that. I think those of us who've lived a few years can just attest. It is get up, get ready. I also think that practicing questions and really looking at some of the things that you probably hear and have learned too is I want to be listening the majority of the time. And I know you're asking me questions today, and I appreciate that. And when I'm in situations, I try to be what one of my friends calls a dominant listener. His name is Wade Hagedorn, and he's an executive for a company called Contour Brands, which you may never have heard of, but you've heard of Wrangler and Lee Jeans, and they're a distributor for those. And I loved it. He said this to me a few years ago when we were working on a leadership development program, and it's just really stuck with me. Like, I want to be a dominant listener. And so that has also helped me with the pause, because when you're listening, as much as I'm a hard charger and I love to, move ahead, it helps you to not make errors in judgment.
Yeah, giving yourself some time to listen and process and discern. I think those are all very good strategies to make good decisions and to spark that success that we talk about. So you talked also about mindset development and the Lead with Hope framework. I talk about optimistic outlook. And we know that optimism is powerful in mindset development. So talk to us about your mindset and how you equip leaders with some strategies or tools to develop that mindset piece.
Sure. It was phenomenal when I found out who Carol Dweck was, because I always thought, how can anyone learn if they don't believe it's possible to learn and grow? And just the beginning of growth is connected to our mind. Do we believe that it's possible to grow and to expand? And there's much more neuroscience behind my elementary explanations, yet they're the same thing. It means that we do have the capacity to learn and to grow. And it starts with what we believe about that, our beliefs. And so when I was mentioning one of the authors that I get to work with and write with is John Gordon, and he writes about the power of positive leadership and many other topics. He's written over 32 books, I think, at this point. And his frameworks I really align with, because he says simple is practical. It takes what I read in other books and research on mindset and neuroscience and what neural connections really are, and how you can build new neural connections by practicing certain things and by noticing and shifting and rewiring, so that we can disrupt things that aren't as productive in our thoughts and beliefs and go in other directions. And he puts them into simple frameworks. And then I'm a student that likes all of the things, meaning that I like the thick book and, reading and learning as much as I can from a neuroscientist. And I've never found that really has cascaded well through an organization or a household. I haven't had other people who have been as excited about that, or very few. So finding ways to share what's possible with people in teams and organizations, and watch transformation, because change and transformation is a big component of successful businesses and organizations. It always has been, it always will be, and no one disputes that. So leaders are always looking for ways to help their organization thrive and grow while they're going through a change or multiple changes. And mindset is a component of that. More and more research has come out about the evidence related to mindset and results, bottom line business results, things that also organizations are always looking to impact, like retention, productivity, morale, well-being, and resilience of employees. And mindset practices help with all of those things.
So why do you think that is? I mean, in simple terms, why do you think mindset is so powerful in helping cultures thrive?
Well, in simple terms, it's no one needs any to be around any more negativity. When you go and do your work and someone is miserable, we all have challenges. It's not there's positive mindset, and mindset work is not about saying everyone has to agree.
Yeah.
Everything's awesome all the time. That's not even any fun, really, because business and organizations are about solving problems. So it's problems are inherent when you are with people. If one of us or multiple members get stuck in a negative mindset, it pulls down on our capacity to solve problems. It also impacts our personal wellness, our health, our physical health. So people innately know, ugh, I don't want to be around that. Like, you're just making me feel sick. And whether they mean metaphorically sick or physically sick, we're contagious. There's so much research. The Heart Math Institute says people can feel our emotions up to 10 feet away as they go to all the cells in our body. So I think when it comes down to it, people don't want to be around the negativity. In the short term, I think that our compassion and our empathy wants to help solve problems and help individuals who are struggling. If it persists and it exists and it compounds, then people are looking for an escape route. And that's why when you're going through change, when you're growing, when you're dealing with the inevitable challenges that come with life and with work, having mindset practices that you can personally call upon, as well as help others navigate those things more successfully, it's just going to be, quite frankly, more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And we want to enjoy our work and our lives as best we can.
Yeah, absolutely. We spend a lot of time at work, and so it's a place where we need to want to go. I mean, people talk all the time in education about the Sunday scaries. They don't want to go to work on Monday morning. If we have toxic work environments, people are going to leave. They're not going to stay there. They're going to go somewhere else. And I think that mindset piece is a really powerful component of making our lives better and the lives of those we lead and we serve better as well.
Yes, I really, that Sunday night thing is a real deal. If you have that too consistently, it's an opportunity. Obviously, you know it. I think we've all maybe felt it at different times. I remember feeling it at certain points in my school career, just of not wanting to be in a certain grade, or maybe there were a group of people that I didn't think were nice at school. I just didn't want to be around them, and it was dread. It felt like just plain dread. And so the culture of workplaces, whether it's a distributed workforce that's online, the level of helpfulness of your team impacts you. There's just so many different things, and this is one of the things that I'm writing about right now, which is work is personal.
Yeah.
It always has been, it always will be. All
Yeah.
the stuff about it's not personal, it's just business. I think that that's just complete bunk, and it's because we do spend so much time, and if anyone cares and wants to be good at their work, then it matters to them. And your P in hope is passion, and there's passion for things you want to do well, so you're very affected by the work people you work with.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
When you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs too, I mean, that sense of belonging, wanting to have that sense of belonging is so incredibly important and part of the human experience that if you don't have that at work, then obviously it's not going to be a long-term experience for you. You're going to find somewhere else where you can find, they talk about find your tribe. So it's important. I'm intrigued about the book you're writing about work is personal, but I know you've also written another book about difficult conversations. What are your thoughts on workplaces? Let's say a workplace is toxic, for instance, and there are difficult conversations that need to be had. Are there any practical strategies from your book that you could share with the audience on that?
sure. And there's a model in the book called the star three model. And star three is an exponent over the R because there are three R's. And the S really stands for small ego, big mission. And it means before we even have a conversation, is this about me or is this about we? And asking yourself, is this about our bigger purpose together? If it's not, I say, let's manage our mindsets.
Right.
Not every conversation even needs to be had. And a lot of times when workplaces have gotten to the level that someone would label them toxic, there's a lot of personal work to be done. And it doesn't have to take weeks, but before you can even engage in a successful conversation. Because the first conversation we need to have is with ourselves. And there are some things that we talk about in regard to mindset practices. So we go back to mindset.
Right.
Say we say, you know what, I'm asking myself, is this about me or is this about Brandy and myself and the whole team at this school or at this organization? Well, this really is about the work that we're doing together and our bigger mission and purpose. So I'm going to proceed to the next piece of this model, which is T, and it's about telling the truth. And the thing that when we train around this, it's that every workshop I've ever done, people say when we talk about trust that they want the truth from other people. It's in the top 5.
Yeah.
And then how do we handle the truth when people give it to us?
Right.
And yes, people can say, oh, well, I only want it if it's delivered in a nice way, which certainly makes sense. I mean, I don't want it in a yucky way too. I don't want someone who doesn't have any, delivery skills to be giving me their truth. And if we really want to get better, we've got to get a little stronger at handling when people decide to give us something that they believe is the truth. I'm not saying we have to accept it as our truth, but we've got to start practicing telling the truth. And we even go so far to say, tell the truth in love. And now love in the workplace or love in some organizations, people say, oh, we're not talking about love here. Well, just substitute care. Tell the truth with caring or tell the truth with your heart. But we're not telling the truth to point out a flaw. We're telling the truth to elevate toward our mission. And so we practice that. And just like we were talking before we started and right when this is not a quick fix thing, because if things have gotten to the point where relationships have broken down a little bit, the environment and the culture is truly struggling, it is not advised to think, everybody go in and have the conversation. Start telling the truth and give it to them, because all that will do is destroy. That will be one of those horrible moments where people wonder, or maybe they won't even wonder, but what happened here? Because there's destruction everywhere. So we actually have a conversation transformation plan that we work through. And some people really kind of move into this more swiftly than others, because we all bring our different levels of trauma and distress to all the circumstances. But so first is S, then there's the T, and then a big one that you probably have heard before, but it's so important, is assuming positive intent. And the reason that a lot of the work that we do around this particular element of the model is that we've got to resurrect the ability to believe in the other people we're having the conversation with, even if the evidence appears to point to something else. And that means going into conversations with people that maybe you might think in your mind you've already decided or made a judgment that might be right. And I know that's not true. I know they've done this. I know they think that. And we know in conversations when someone else doesn't believe us or believe in us. I haven't met a physicist yet or the right type of, scientist to tell me what kind of the molecules are that would transmit that. I do know that there's been a lot of work on the molecules of emotion. But what I'm saying is, if you are talking to someone, generally you can tell they don't believe in me, or you're like, that person believes in me. And so assuming positive intent and positive belief in someone is a huge part of something productive coming out of a difficult conversation. It doesn't mean you have to agree. It just means giving them that benefit of the doubt. And we actually have another kind of model that we work through that spells out grace,
Mm.
GRACE, and it's ways to kind of work through being generous with things. And I won't go through the whole model, but it really allows you to intentionally give the other person grace, because the conversations that are most challenging are usually with people that we don't believe in, a lot of times that we may not agree with, or we believe we don't, and that we don't have as much of a reservoir of positive feelings about. So it's this excavation process that, and people will say to me, well, what happens if the person on the other side of this, or the people on the other side of this, are doing none of this work and they're still a stinker? Well, we're still learning, we're still making progress. It takes time, but as you work through that, then there are 3 R's. And I've seen, I won't go through the whole model today, but I've seen teams transformed in the best case, where they've become, they said they've never been more united. They have all kinds of more innovative conversations. They were able, I've seen where someone honestly left because there was just a lack of respect, which is one of the R's. They could not find a way to be respectful to each other. And I've seen people say, wow, I have a whole new perspective on things that I would not have even considered previously. It didn't change what they believed,
Right.
but because of their ability to have a different level of discourse, it positively impacted their team, their organization, and a solution came about. And it wasn't what they originally even wanted, either parties, but because they were able to have those conversations, there was productive progress.
Yeah. Yeah. And people think about leadership and they think it's a straight line from, the beginning to the end, but it's not. It's all over the place. It's messy, messy, messy work. And every experience that I've had in leadership, some of them have been great blessings, and some of them have been immeasurable lessons that I have learned. And I think that is an important thing too, that as you're looking at this and applying these models, considering that, it's a process, not an event. We are learning lessons, we're growing, we're developing, and some people can take the organization from point A to point D, and then somebody else has to take it from there. But it's a process, and we've got to work through that process. And hopefully, we can become better human beings in the process, and also help those that we serve grow as well.
I agree with everything you're saying. And that's kind of when you were talking about your advice to your daughter, or
Yeah.
to take a pause. I think leaders, all of us, have to learn how to pause and to give space for everyone to grow, because that you've grown, given that time and that opportunity to think and to, really reflect and respond when appropriate. And other people need that time too. So continuing to be clear on where we're going and making steps forward, but giving people a chance through change and through dialogue to also grow on the other side.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of discipline.
It does. It really does. Discipline and patience, both. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now you kind of touched on another piece of, why I created the Lead with Hope framework, and that is adversity. It was my framework, my system was born out of tragedy. And I think we all have adversity or tragedy in this life. And I'm just curious, is there anything that you would be willing to share about your story where you've overcome adversity or tragedy and are now leading with hope?
Oh gosh, there's so many adversities and mistakes. Some of the adversities I think happened to me. Some of them I think I caused myself, and we're all, but definitely, I mean, I've had financial, what I would call adversity. I had a business that failed and I lost my house. We were living in a friend's basement, all 6 of our family, my husband and I, and and I take responsibility for that. I mean, thank goodness we had a bond for our business. And so we didn't leave anyone Well, we did leave a bank with a debt that we owed him before we went through and had quite a few employees. We had a big payroll. I had a business partner that we did not communicate well. It was really painful. Just so many things, and so that was all very hard. And also, when my mom passed away 6 months after I had my twins, she had pancreatic cancer, and she died on Thanksgiving of 2003. I definitely was just that was very hard without getting it was just hard. And I know that a lot of now that I'm older too, it wasn't that I thought I was the only one. It's just so many of us, like you said, adversity is a common part of life, and it can lead to some incredibly beautiful things given our hope, right? And the hope that comes out and through humans. And let's see. I've made some mistakes with friends and relationships that I was like, oh my gosh, looking back, I'm like, that could be a do not do this in a leadership book. A do not do this.
Yeah.
Not as many recently, but still as a parent, telling my children not to do something and then doing that thing and them being the ones to point it out to me, like, oh, you told us not to speak negatively about someone, but we were driving home and you said such and such about so and so's parent. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm not proud to even say that, but it's true.
Yeah.
So the list, and that's not necessarily adverse, but there is adversity in realizing how flawed you are and trying to kind of reconcile. Look, the hope is I'm so grateful for another day.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that, I think you probably realize this too, people who have been through the pain of being so flawed and making mistakes and adversity are great helpers for others because we're not intimidating. We're kind of like, guess what? Here's somebody else that's pretty much of an understanding individual that knows or maybe has gone through or done, had way worse. And it's not a contest. What you're saying, though, is I don't think that the beauty of our true capacity would come out as completely if we didn't have adversity.
Right. Absolutely. Brene Brown says, owning yourself and loving yourself through it is the bravest thing we will ever do. And the older I get, the more that speaks to me because, like you said, we are deeply flawed human beings. And if we're honest, we all have a story that we could share about our mistakes and our flaws and our downfalls. But sometimes the ego does get in the way, and people are not willing to really be vulnerable and share that. But I think we would be better for sharing our story. So today, Amy, I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your story. And I'm just curious for the listeners that want to connect with you after this show, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. Thank you, Brandy. You can come to amypkelly.com, amypkelly.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn at Amy P. Kelly, and you can find me on Instagram at Amy P. Kelly1. And when you search on Amy P. Kelly, you'll find me. That P that's so important to me and to you, your purpose is probably the only reason you can find me because there are plenty of other Amy Kellys.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today, and I look forward to continuing our conversations. Maybe we'll do this again another day. But thank you for coming on today, and yeah, let me know when your new book comes out.
I definitely will. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at teachbetter.com/podcasts, and we'll see you at the next episode.